And the coffee is on, and the guest is there. Wow, what more do we need for a coffee hour?
Good morning.
Welcome, Feliciano. Hey there. Okay, so you are not abroad anymore. You're are you home? Is that right?
I'm back home in Texas.
In Texas. Okay, here I am in Baja. The coffee's on. I'll hear it when it goes off. And hey, it's been a while since we've chatted. You've been
Hmm.
all kinds of adventures, and I've had mine here. And well, I don't, I don't know where I should start. Maybe start at the beginning. Do you have any questions for me to get going? By the way, let me introduce
Well,
you. Oh,
yes, I'm not used to asking questions of manifestors. I
well, I know, I
appreciate
get it. I
that.
know, I gave you lots of time to think of them, right? But I am really open. I'm just gonna
Awesome.
flash our charts for just a sec at the beginning here. Inform. Let's see. Nope, I didn't do this correctly. Oh, I got to add the slide first. Okay, so just to let people be informed by the information, we have no consistent life force in our designs. I don't even think we make one. I don't think we do. And uh, and then our personalities, I dominate that way.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. But you make a collective channel on this outside here. You've got a 4816 parallel to my 5720. So we talk from our spleen, I guess, something like that. But anyway, there we are. Introduced 3-5 Splenic projector. I'm a 6-2 Splenic manifester, and the coffee's making sounds. So I'd love to hear from you.
So yeah, just looking at those charts real quick.
Yeah.
Um, I have this dormant um, personality in my root, right? The 38 and the 39. And
Ah, yes. Yep. There they
so I'm
are.
kind of locked out of my potential for most of the day. Well, I mean, unless transits or people, um, or plants even. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you mentioned the 1648, and so that's consistent in my chart. And I'm just wondering,
Mm-hmm.
all those activations in the spleen and the throat are, I mean, those are pretty consistent for me, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But the stuff in the open, sorry,
In defined centers. Mm-hmm.
right? I only have two. So basically my 30 and 39 are like rocks. They're just
Yeah.
rocks. They just come active by something or someone. Um, they're hanging, they're dormant, they're asleep, they're not really activated.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, oh, when I get together with someone, I don't really know them. Hell, I'm barely getting to know myself with it.
Well, and that's the projector story, isn't it? I mean, is this is what I read sometimes, that the projector learns about himself through the other. Yeah, is this coming? Is there signs of this in your experiment so far?
Absolutely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's mechanical, right?
Well, that's what I hear. But
Well, I've
I
discovered that, and I also hear it.
okay. Well, I would love. You want to give me Is there a way to give me an example of that? Like you discovering yourself through like meeting up. Now, let me add something too. So you came into human design in the last 3 years or so, and I met you basically a year ago, like pretty much exactly a year and a month ago.
Mhm.
And since then, you've been through LYD with me. You've been through readings and trainings and things with other people at different times, and you've gone on some adventures out of the country, so that part's pretty cool. So I want to hear about all that. But what
Yeah.
have you learned? How mechanical is this system that we're in?
Well, it starts with recognition,
Hmm.
and awareness. What isn't me?
What
um,
is not you?
yeah.
Okay,
And
is that part of your story lately? What is not Feliciano? Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
trying to come up with an example of learning about myself through others. Well, all my unconscious, a lot of my red is in not self centers, and so
Oh,
it's
in other words, open centers.
yeah, in the heart and the or
Uh-huh.
the ego, the
There,
G, and
there,
the solar plexus.
there.
And
Uh-huh.
so, it's like, wham, my unconscious is showing up,
Uh-huh.
and people, luckily, people can approach me and let me know about myself, right?
Ah,
How
uh-huh.
it feels to be around me, and it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, so this is my unconscious. Oh, I see. I have no
Uh-huh.
access. I better be nice to these people because they're helping me, But, yeah, as if. But and so in realizing that there's more than half of me that I have no access to,
Mhm.
and finding out through the other, um, that's just one part of it. The other is seeing it in others, and then seeing it in myself. You
Mhm.
um, Sometimes,
Mhm.
sometimes I
Mhm.
get to step out of myself, for a second and say, "Oh wow, how am I doing this? How is this showing up for me?"
Mhm. By the way, cheers to the brew that's bringing us together here.
The Unemployed Philosophers Club.
What was that? The unemployed
The
philosopher.
Unemployed Philosopher Club. Yeah,
Oh.
it's written on the bottom of my cup.
Ah, okay, that's okay. I don't have any words on mine. Okay, I see. Ah, that makes sense. Okay, especially for Mr. Collective, right? You've got some sharing to do.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's kind of like a 180. I said, "Oh, I don't have any centers defined, or I only have two," and it's like, what's missing?
Uh-huh.
And it's like, wait a minute, I have all these profit potential centers.
Yes, you do. And I don't have your composites, but I do know what you're speaking of because you have 7 open centers. So now for me, I don't have so many, right? I only have 4. But what I do notice is that more open centers in somebody makes them more interesting to me, generally speaking. You know, like there's just more, I don't know how to say that better. But what you're saying about profit centers, we learned in 64 material ways. Each of your open centers is where you meet the other. And so it's a place where you make technically make money out of, or maybe technically, I don't know if that's the right word, but money making comes out of open centers because that's where the other meets you. And
And everybody needs somebody. Even manifestors need to sell to somebody. So
tell me about it.
you can't make money on your own. It's
Oh, I know. Tell the Hermit Manifestor about that. Tell her some more. She can't make money on her own, living alone, ignoring everyone.
Well, you need somebody to sell to at the very least.
Yeah. And my dog doesn't buy. She just takes.
Oh, Maya, how's Maya doing? Gosh,
Oh,
I've been
she's
wanting to hear about her.
okay. Yeah, I could talk about her a lot, right? I'll
Well,
add her,
when you
I'll add
finish.
an image of her to the screen here.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure this is her chart, right? I don't know her birth chart for sure because I wasn't there. But she has at least that 515, and I maybe that other channel too. So she's like a double whammy generator, if not just a plain old 515 generator. Which going to my chart, you and I both have the escape fives, and I think do you have unconscious ones also?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we both have conscious and unconscious fives. So I think you might have some personal experience with the 515 in a generator.
Well,
Yeah?
I've had a couple friends with the 515, and
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much I'm making this up, but I swear she is the rhythm of my life. Like, as far as when she wants to go outside, when she wants to go for a walk. And I'm not like, like serving her every whim, but don't get away with it if I don't. Here's an example. I go into my room where I sleep separately from her now, of course, for yoga the other day, and then I kind of get into a nappy time of it. So I'm just like, I can hear her whining at the door, like she wants to go out. I don't have a doggy door. But I'm like, whatever, I'm just gonna whatever. And then I come out later, and on her bed, she has a nice big bed. She has barfed up the rotten fish parts that she ate during the morning walk, that she found on the side of the road, and And so I have the job then of, taking the dog bed apart, getting the dog barf off, and uh, like there's all this work to do with this thing. But and then this one's even great. The next day, I go outside to do yoga in the afternoon on the patio, and she's like at the base of the patio on the ground. And I don't really notice what she's doing, but I'm on my mat. And then eventually I look over and look at what she's doing. She's eating the dried up dog barf from, off the from yesterday. And I'm like, oh God.
Oh, Maya.
Yeah. So
the body knows. she must know. She's like, yeah, I still want that.
Right. Well, and then it's like she's not going to take a lot of direct. I mean, she does take a certain amount of direction, but we do have an e-collar because I figured out some months ago that there were times when it's like she was not hearing the command at all. And I wasn't used to that. My German Shepherds were like, oh, mom's being serious now. We better pay attention. Like the seriouser I was, the more the German Shepherds would follow me. This dog, I could be like, I can give it all about no, not chasing the car, things like that. And she's just like, she goes. So now she has this little thing on her neck and it goes, zzz. A little vibration. It's not even electric. I don't have to use the electric, but just a little vibration. And I watch her body go like a little head jerk. And then she's like, okay, Mom. And then she's gone.
All right. We gotta talk later about a human design version
of the collar.
Self vibrates like on your watch or something. It's like that's not so.
Did you just say the not self vibrates it?
Yeah. Every time you're not self, it vibrates to let you know.
Oh, dude, that's hilarious. Oh man, I can even see the one technology where it could really work is, you could program it with voices, like, the throat voices. And so if you say one of your throat voices that's not yours.
Yeah.
Do we have masochists? Are there masochists?
Right, I mean, whatever.
Are there masochists in human design that want to be tortured like that?
I would try it.
Yeah. You're like, I'm gonna survive. I only have 12 splenic activations. Or you don't have that many.
Well, I try stuff,
Yes, Mr. 3-5, you do try things, don't you? And you survive things. Do you have a sense of that these days? Like, you're a survivor. Yeah.
A growing confidence.
Okay. Did traveling abroad help with that? Was that an experience of splenic awareness? Okay, let's talk about abroad, and then we'll go back to the States. So where you went abroad was you went to San Salvador?
Mm-hmm.
And was that the only country you went to?
Yeah, on that trip, just and all around, really, I visited around. I got close to the border of Nicaragua, and there's a beach there called La Union, which is the union of the three countries there. And so you can sit in
Nicaragua and San Salvador
Honduras and Guatemala, I think.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like this cove, and you have all these different accesses to it from each country. And so it's beautiful. Oh gosh, the beaches. Oh, did I say the beaches?
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
And then I got to stay. I guess the elevation is like 1,000 meters.
Well, away from the beach.
Yeah, it's like so. It's like a volcano next to the ocean. And, volcanoes. I enjoyed that. Boy, did I.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a special combination for me. The volcano near the ocean, that happened for me in Oregon. They were about 3 hours or 2 hours apart. But in Panama, same thing. Costa Rica, same thing. And I remember thinking, this seems like a good place to survive some kind of Armageddon, because there's fresh water there, and then there's ocean there, and there's healthy vegetation in between. I don't know. Does that sound? That's just a theory.
Well, being in the wrong neighborhood when shit hits the fan.
Yes. Okay. So that was the next thing in my brain was, well, as long as the people are peaceful. And I was thinking, well, in Costa Rica, this little valley that I know about, the people are peaceful. But here's the truth: I don't trust the Costa Ricans. Okay. So, like I ended up there at the beginning. I met human design in that valley of Costa Rica in 2016. But eventually, basically, and they're not the most violent, obviously, that Costa Rica is a safe country, but there is anyway, I don't know how to describe it better, but I'll say, after the stories I've heard and the things I felt and the things I saw, I was like, yeah, I don't want to be with you guys when things go weird, because you're going to have no loyalty to me at all. I am not going to be I'm not going to be safe with you when you guys are under stress. When I'm the woman here in Costa Rica with money and I can buy my way through things and I have, the ability to plane ticket home or something, then that's one thing. You're looking at me one way, but like the Costa Ricans weren't going to let me in to their culture or anything like that. So, like, San Salvador is a whole different culture in a way, but it's not too far away. So do you want to tell us, first of all, what took you there? What brought you to San Salvador? You didn't just pick it out of a hat.
Well, it started with getting invited.
Yes. Okay. So you got invited. So tell me about this.
Yeah. A couple's moving back home to retire. They bought a property and they needed to move some furnishings and, just some heavy stuff, like 8 huge duffel bags worth. So I was kind of a mule, nothing illegal, nothing illegal, but they asked me to take a bunch of stuff. It was like $900 just for the baggage fees.
Really? You really did take 8 bags. Okay.
I did. Yeah. And some cash, to get into the country for them. And then they gave me a little money to play around with while I was there. And so I stayed in a like a 3-story house for the first couple of weeks while the renovation was completed, so that I could live there, right? And kind of oversee, kind of like, hey, what's this, pointing out all the defects.
So you had a kind of an oversee of the project kind of role also. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, we need this, we need that. Here's the money for this. Here's the money for that, kind of thing. Keeping in contact with them and the workers.
Okay.
And a couple months, and I got most of it done. And I guess I could have left at any time. I had one of those flights I could just choose whenever. But a couple months was enough. It's like a whole culture shock, both ways, going over there and coming back.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're settled a little bit. We're in San Salvador with you. You've been invited and given resources. And did you do some technical work for them too? Some
security stuff, cameras, all the electronics in the house. Make sure everything works, from, hey, Alexa, blah, 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 camera or whatever.
Okay. So they're setting up a high-tech house in San Salvador.
Okay. I'm sorry. My Alexa, she's going to do it again.
You talk to Alexa?
She's listening. Yeah.
Hey, Alexa, here's a peanut butter bone.
Gracias.
Okay. So, because this is like your skills. I mean, you had a lot of skills that were employed there, but one of them was you have skills with technology and setting up systems. That you want to say anything about that?
Well, I mean, here I'm wearing this shirt from 20 years ago.
What does it say? Carorder.com. Okay.
It's a sleeve shirt, but I was remembering this morning. I was like, man, what was it like working for a .com before the internet bubble burst? And so, I have a background in, at the time I was selling cars on the internet, right?
Well, before it was so popular.
When they said it was impossible, right?
They said it was impossible to sell cars on the internet. And did you sell cars on the internet?
We were kind of like proving that you could. And so, yeah, but the background is over 20 years in IT, and so many different hats in that arena. Just kind of going with whatever was on my plate, but
and then somehow that ended up like years later, you end up leaving a job in IT, like a long-term job, right? You had
20 years in the same job.
And then basically around the time of COVID striking, stimulus checks showing up, and you had, for the first time in years, you didn't have to go to work every day for a while, and that's around the time I met you, I think, yeah? And then a year later, that turned into, hey, here's a ticket to San Salvador, come, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah, well,
okay.
Simplified.
Yeah, okay, well, just seeing that there's a trajectory there, because a lot of people are like, when you meet human design and they're fully involved in work and everything, like, how is it possible that I could not work and then somebody's going to recognize me and invite me to do something that, so I'm seeing an example of what that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. So there's an example, 3-5 example here. Okay. It worked. Okay. So you got there and there's a culture shock of being in San Salvador. So one thing I'll mention, there's all kinds of things I could throw in there, but because you were there, I got to find out that San Salvador does have the highest murder rate in the world. I thought it was Mexico, but no, it's San Salvador. Okay, so you want to tell us about...
An interesting note about that is that if you look at different lists, Mexico and the United States, all the other countries move up and down based on the metrics, but El Salvador is number one on all the lists.
No matter how you crunch the numbers? It's the most murder.
I felt pretty safe.
Yeah, well, I'd like to hear about it. So, like, did you feel safe? Like, would I be safe there? I
don't know. Ask your splenic authority. But I think it's shown me the fear levels, right?
Okay.
And people's, where they're at, their conscious level of their own fear.
Okay.
How much it kind of drives our choices.
Okay. So you're talking about on the ground in San Salvador or more broadly?
Kind of both. When I was on the ground in El Salvador, everywhere you go, it's still, to this day, you have to have a mask. There's only one person in. If you come in a group, they have to wait outside. It's kind of, I just did it because no choice. But it's more than that. On the phones, you get a message from the president, saying, hey, we're going to have a talk tonight at 8 p.m. Don't forget. And all the media, everything, all the outlets are broadcasting the president. The buses are 20 cents a ride. And that's a big thing, because people ride the bus to work. And so, they're talking about for anywhere from $20 to $120, depending on the family and how many bus rides. And, that's a major national topic, right? Because some buses are charging 30 cents.
Okay.
And it's like, if it's air conditioned, and it's illegal.
What's illegal?
To charge 30 cents.
Oh, but some of them are?
Because it's subsidized. And so they get their money from the government, not, they're just getting a couple cents from the people.
Right? Okay. Interesting details. Costa Rica seemed to have hardly any services at all, but they did have nice, big buses. I did notice that. Nice. Now, in contrast, Mexico here in this part, we don't have nice buses. They're like the old shorty buses from the United States, the colectivos. But the government's not involved, and it's not cheap. This is a lot. It's like 100 pesos for me to go to town. That's like $5 US. But the money's going to the driver. And when you look at it, like there's 5 people in the bus, you're like, okay, this guy's barely making gas money for driving the bus today. Interesting. Okay, but there's no corruption on the government versus, okay.
Well, there's plenty of corruption to go around.
Okay, well, there. Okay, yeah.
And I mean, it's just I think on Sundays
Mhm.
it's like a ghost town in
Yeah.
most of the capital. They
Uh-huh.
really observe Sunday as a day of rest.
Okay.
Very
Uh-huh.
conservative and Catholic.
San Salvador. Okay.
It's like a night and day difference on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I got to see it a couple times, but usually that's when I would travel to different parts of the country to go take
Uh-huh.
pictures and enjoy my, built a little R&R into the trip.
I was seeing some nice pictures come out of there. You're on Instagram now, and I barely touch it yet, but I like the aesthetics that you're sharing there. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, aesthetics.
It's kind of changing, another as soon as I got off the plane coming back home, my sister's like, I need you. She totally was like recognizing me. I was like, where is this coming from? You know,
Okay. Uh-huh.
and she's like, I need you to help me with the business. And I see you can help me with all this stuff. And I was just like, whoa. We'll see. I don't
Uh-huh.
know how much I can really depend on her word. But it really came to fruition, um,
Uh-huh.
and it was kind of a shock because I was like, man, I'm coming home. I have no idea how I'm going to pay bills or where the money, income's coming from or what I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
doing with who or where. And I'm kind of just like, oh, what a relief. I don't have to think about it.
Uh-huh.
But there's still this fear, right? The fear, like, why do we need money? So that we can, our fears, back to our fears.
Money. I saw this quote. Amiro shared this quote the other day where Ra actually said it so simple. Money is fear, is what it said. And
Mm,
I was like, oh, that's a harsh way to put it. And I'm like, well, no, I get it. It's fear that life isn't going to give you enough. So if you have money stacked up, then you don't have to think about whether life is actually going to give you enough. You, because you think you already have it. And oh boy, I do know that. But isn't that okay? I like this transition though that you talked about. So you went and did work one way based on invitation, and you had things to move around, and then you didn't know what was going to happen next, and then another invitation came in. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And so I'm getting paid to take photos now.
Oh no way! You're actually getting paid to take photos. Oh,
Yeah, and I and it's just something I love doing,
uh-huh.
So a lot is coming out of that Instagram now that I just had no idea. I have no idea where it's going. I kind of look at it and I say, wow, it's kind of this and that, and it's not cohesive. And just kind of looking at it with my outer vision, right? And which is something
Ah,
I
is that
did.
your cognition, outer vision?
No,
Aha.
I think I'm smell cognition, but
Okay.
is it the same?
Let's see.
Is
I'm
it
forgetting. That might be smell. Outer
but I do
vision
have outer vision in my
in your
charts.
environment.
I think it's like an ajna. I'm getting
I
into
forget. I
details,
forget. Right. Right. That. Yeah. Okay. I
but
think it
I
is.
don't know my chart. I'm a
That's all right.
projector.
Well, John Martin says a projector looking at his chart is not being a projector.
Well, yeah, obviously. I
I
don't
mean,
know
I don't
mine
know.
well enough to.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just yeah,
Yeah,
remembering
well,
that.
people throw around the terms being a projector, and it's like, well,
Uh-huh.
what ruler, or what measuring device,
Yeah, right. Well, yes, and here I
You're
am
poorly
learning.
performing, or you're on, on target,
I
on
know, right? Yeah.
trajectory. It's like, I'm a third line.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that too. So I want to talk about the stage in the States right now, but I want to go back to San Salvador if we have time. I'm thinking we have about an hour total, maybe another 30 minutes.
Okay.
Does that sound all right to you? Because I think I'm going to go to my dance class in half an hour.
Oh, totally.
But I wanted to ask you about Bitcoin in San Salvador. Okay, so it's the only or one of like two countries now that have legally adopted. Legally adopted, I think might just mean the dictator king or whatever just says, Bitcoin. But anyway, so it's technically legal tender there,
Hmm.
and yet I don't know what that sounds like. Oh, that could be awesome. But on the ground, what was that like? What did you observe?
Wow, what an experience.
Okay.
So yeah, the interesting part was I went to Bitcoin Beach.
Bitcoin Beach.
Bitcoin Beach is what it's called.
BTC Beach.
Where they sold the first pupusa for Bitcoin on the beach.
Okay.
And they showed, hey, you know, there's this woman, a lady selling her, you know, she makes pupusas every day, and that's how she makes her money.
Pupusas, for people who don't know, is like snack foods.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's actually not corn, it's rice.
Rice based.
Rice, but it looks like a tortilla, and they put beans and cheese and whatever in it.
It's a tortilla-like thing made out of rice?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Okay, I'm glad I asked.
It's a little different, but it's something that you'll find everywhere there.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you know, it's just interesting to visit. Oh, so this is the beach. It's like, you know, there's nothing there. It's just signs and stuff. But everywhere you go, it's legal. You know, there's a Chivo wallet. I think that's only open to people who are nationals. They gave, like, I don't know, like anywhere from $25 to $300 to everyone. So that to kind of
a little stimulus, a little Bitcoin stimulus,
and to get them to start using it, trying it. People I talked to didn't touch it, don't know how to use it, never really thought about it. They're scared of it. And then I did see, you know, everywhere you go, pay with Bitcoin. You know, here are these 5 aisles, and then the rest. You know, just anybody else. And then outside of like the groceries is like an ATM for Bitcoin, and there's a person there that'll walk you through setting up your wallet, how to move the money, you know, answer questions.
So any person who's never been banked before. Okay, I didn't understand this before I started trying to pay attention to Bitcoin and what crypto is. And that just basically started at the beginning of this year. I've been quite ignorant, but I've learned some things in 5 months. So one of the things about Bitcoin that is, but this idea that people who are not already in the banking system, like you and I were able to get into the banking system with a social security number. I mean, you know, virtue of being American and all that stuff. But there are plenty of people who are not. So is that something in San Salvador, that people who are not banked are going to get into a financial system that is Bitcoin based, and that'll be their first banking? Did you see anything like that?
You know, I really didn't see wide adoption.
Okay, you didn't see wide adoption.
It's very specialized. I don't see anybody paying with their wallet. It's very rare.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's kind of interesting, you know, what's going on politically with that. Like, why, you know, I mean, it's not like it's gone unnoticed, right, by the International Monetary Fund or banks and the money exchangers. You know, they're paying close attention to what's going on. And so there's tectonic plates, you know. Pun intended, you know, the volcanoes. But you know, it's like Bitcoin is so volatile, and I think the fear is, it's like, hey, you know, we agreed this is what you're going to pay me for X service or product, and then the transaction takes this long, right? And in that moment, the price, the value changes, and it's like, wait a minute, you said you were going to pay me this much, and I only got this much.
There you go. There's a practical issue
in that split second, right? And then it's like, well, hey, you paid me $80,000 for this work, and today I only have $20,000 because of the market. And some people are afraid to take payment. Large payments, because it's like, well, that's not worth this what it is tomorrow. It might be worth more, right?
You're right.
And it's almost like Bitcoin is like well, this is all me now.
Sure.
It's like the biggest shell game, you know. It's like you can't sell it unless you have a bigger fool willing to pay a higher price than you did. And so it's kind of like waiting for another person to say, hey, I'm going to get in and make, like, you know, these dreams that people are, you know, oh, I don't have to work anymore. I've got Bitcoin, which I think it's part of a smart investment plan. But to put everything in there, it's kind of like, whoa, you know, it's kind of a big bet. And it's like, well, like, let's say I want to sell my Bitcoin. I really don't have anything. It's just numbers. And so the investment of, like, let's say you have paper from, you know, stock market, investment. Well, at least you own the paper. You know, you have that piece of paper that says, "Hey, I'm a shareholder." You know,
Uh-huh.
the company exists somewhere.
And then, but we could go far, right? And I'm not a Bitcoin arguer. I'm fascinated by the existence of it, and now I'm understanding the difference between Bitcoin and all other cryptos. They're really like Bitcoin really isn't crypto, and crypto isn't really Bitcoin. There's that,
Mm.
from my perspective, as a, their internal mechanisms. Um, but maybe we don't have to get too far into it, but we could. I mean, like, it's pretty fascinating topic. I hear you saying that about, Bitcoin potential deals in San Salvador. And I'm like, well, what if you're in Turkey? I mean, the national, currency is like, and, and in places like, South America, it's been that people have been banked, families with plenty of money in the bank, and then one day the government says, yeah, you don't have any money in the bank anymore, actually. You just don't have any of it. And some of those people are some of the most, involved in Bitcoin, because they're like, we need a currency that we can trade with each other that no government can change.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Which is definitely where things are going, right? I mean, I'm not to say Bitcoin is done. It's, well, I mean, the internet, right? There's a whole other story about the internet not lasting over 60 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But back on topic, like, think about what's happening with Russia and the ruble. And
the ruble, the currency.
why? If you could have guessed that, it's because
115, baby. 115 has his personality Earth, and he's controlled the resource of money for his tribe.
I'm telling you. I mean, I'm not going to pick sides, but there is some brilliance to what's going on, because look at the other currencies are being devalued. Mm-hmm. And it's opening the door towards, like, what you're thinking about. Hey, I had money, I don't. And so they tied the energy, you can only pay for energy in rubles. And so a lot of people, whether they like what they're doing in Ukraine or not, have no choice but to buy the energy from them. And so the ruble is just, if you've been watching it.
Yeah, well, I'm not that closely, but I've always been intrigued by Putin, and then just a couple months ago realized we have a design that's really similar. We have the same two channels to the throat. And now I've talked to some other people, they're like, yeah, you Isa and Putin, you don't really have a lot in common. I mean, it looks like it on the chart, but I noticed these moves that he makes. And when I learned about the ruble's strength recently, I was like, is that because he just did that? Marissa says hola.
Oh, hola.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. So there's this little comment thing on the side. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I think it's set to private. Let me see.
Yeah. And I'm not good at using it yet, but anyway, that's one thing. Okay. So let's see here. I'm in charge of structuring things. So I would like to hear about, do we want to leave San Salvador now? Do we want to talk, and we can go back to before San Salvador. You did some traveling in the Southwest and went to the high desert, human design, winter thing. So I could hear about that. I also understand that you survived COVID. I don't know when. So I'd like to hear that story. Do you want to pick which story you start with? Or
I'd love to. They're kind of the same story. I guess I was invited to go out to the human design respite in December. And I came out a little early. I decided, it was a great invitation. And let's go see what's happening. But I kind of moseyed my way around with no real fixed date. I was like, well, this is my destination. And so I just, camped in Texas a couple days and slowly made my way to New Mexico. I stayed for the conference, and then maybe a couple weeks, right? It was a nice invitation.
Yeah, it was cold. Cold there? Was it snowing? I forget.
It was cold and snowing. It was, there was a night I slept in my car below zero. It was like, -3 Fahrenheit.
You learned how to pee inside the car, right?
That was funny. I don't know if I learned how or how not to.
I'm sorry, but you're like the third person I've said, when you're sleeping in your car and it's that cold, you can pee into a container inside, and everyone says, I didn't do a good job.
But you know.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
There's no guarantees, but I slept comfortably. And most of the places I had a place to stay. It was only like in between here and there. I kind of enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so after that, I went to Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and then back to Santa Fe. And that's when I was recording with Jonah.
What were you recording?
He was playing piano, and I was kind of just playing some like wall of sound on guitar.
Really? Is this something you're going to
just kind of impromptu? We never played or practiced together.
Okay.
Since or before. It was just like, okay, let's try this. And then I found out my aunt had died from COVID.
Okay.
It was just like, it's around that time. I kind of felt conditioned. Part of me felt like, oh, these people are going to have a difficult time. I love these people. I'm going to be there for them.
Okay, so maybe it's time to go like back to the family.
It was the timing. And so I came home a little early, 6 weeks later, right? And that's when at the funeral, I think is when a family member caught it. And then that's why I caught it from them.
Okay. So you caught COVID at the funeral for the.
It's funny because I'm traveling all over. Fine. In New Mexico, there's a lot more stricter rules in Texas. And there was, kind of a tangent, but I know we kind of hinted about talking about it. There was an event where you needed to have a Vax card to get in.
Okay. In Texas or in New Mexico?
In New Mexico. And so I was just like, oh, I'll just excuse myself. I don't have one. It's a personal choice. I'll stay home or I'll stay at the house and just y'all have fun. See you later. But I kept getting invitations. And so it was like, 3 or 4 times. Are you sure? Are you sure? I'll make one for you. Don't worry about it. We're all doing it. And I was like, let's go. So they, I think they had a template.
So somebody made a Vax card for you so you could.
I didn't ask for it. They just did it. It's like, okay, where are we going now? But the nice thing about it was that the nice young lady gave me all kinds of energy that evening. Made sure I wasn't bored or by myself, or so it was a nice invitation with energy.
Yeah. Okay. So you can speak to this from experience now. An invitation that maybe does have energy with it and doesn't have energy with it. Yeah. I saw your eyes go big. You're like, yeah, that's so something to recognize about the invitations that are coming to you. Cool.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed is my body was changing every place that I went to.
And your mountains environment, is that correct?
I am.
And you live in Texas, not in the mountains.
In the valley.
Right. Okay. So is this part of your experience of being in the mountains? Your body kind of woke up a little?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think combination of 6 weeks before and then 2 months after at higher elevation. The Rocky Mountains and then the volcano.
Yeah, well, yeah, you had lots of elevation. So from there, at some point, you end up down in Texas, down in the valley again to go to a funeral. And so maybe your body's kind of healthier, but then you contract COVID. So how was it for you?
Well, I think it was all mental.
Your COVID sickness was all mental?
The fear of this and that was all mental construct.
Okay.
My body, it was almost like the symptoms of a mild cold.
Okay, so but it was COVID because you tested for it?
I had to get tested because I actually was planning to leave to El Salvador a couple days after the funeral, but because I had this test I had to do, I was like, oh, I got to postpone the flight.
So then you knew that you had COVID, but you were just hanging out with so your symptoms were common cold kind of symptoms, and it didn't last too long.
I mean, and then my cognition is smell, and I thought, oh gosh, what's going to happen? I'm afraid. But I think it was about the same, you know, when you're congested, you lose a little taste and smell, but it's not to the point where I couldn't, like, I never lost my smell.
Okay.
I always could smell, unfortunately, right? And some things you don't want to smell.
But it's when you're splenic, you're gonna pay attention to those smells.
Oh yeah.
That is part of keeping.
So I think it was mostly my mind was this and that about it.
Okay.
But really, my body was just fine. I think, you know, the thing I experienced was when people found out, you know, people knew I wasn't vaccinated. Well, there's nothing you can do now. Oh, well, you laid your bed. I mean, just the things that people were telling me, I was like, wow, now I know how you really feel.
Really? Okay. So people, when you were like, yeah, so I've got COVID, I'm hanging out at home with a cold, and people were like telling you like, we're doing this on you?
Big time. Everybody who had a vax, pretty much.
They were saying, I told you so while you were just enduring a virus. Oh boy, Isa wouldn't do well with that. It's a good thing she doesn't have people in her life that would dare to say something like that to her.
Well, I don't have too many people saying it, but you know, there's a few people that I was like, wow, I can't. Wow, it's like I can't really forget that.
Interesting.
But,
you can't forget that they said that. Because it's a little bit of like, you don't recognize me for relying on my own splenic authority. So
you get it. You got it. Right there.
Okay, so okay. Yeah. You know,
I mean, it's just like I'm in the mountains and I'm healthy. I mean, I was healthy for several years. I hadn't gotten sick for several years, and I come back to this place in Texas, and immediately I could feel it in my body, like it was toxic.
That your place in Texas,
my place, this house, you know.
Okay. So this
I had to clean. There was some dust and stuff, but not to the point where it was toxic. And I could really sense it in my body. And, you know, I'm living with it now. I mean, I've adapted, right? There's, I mean, no choice. But I still see, it's like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, you know.
So you're feeling after this travel and being at elevation, you're feeling about being in your house is different now.
Oh yeah. And remember I got to meet James thanks to a fellow 6'2" man.
James Toon, 6'2" Splenic projector of some years there in Arizona. Yes, you guys
spent some time with him. Thank you for that initiation. We got along so well, and it's something I think in the profiles that I'm really recognizing. 3 5s and 2 6, or what is it? 6 2s.
Yeah, the harmonic of our profile.
Yes, it really is a thing. And so at that time is when I recognized the different elevations. You know, around 6,000 to 7,000 feet that my body adjusts to that above and below, that elevation. And then I guess at around 3,500 feet. It's different, but it's still better than, you know, below sea level. And one of the things is the pressure, all this pressure from all the oxygen and nitrogen and all CO2. I feel like it's compressing the inners of my body.
You can,
And so it's like I can't burp, I can't pass gas, like I feel stuck.
I remember you mentioning that when you get up to elevation, you can burp and fart.
I was, you know, for someone who has, you know, doesn't really do it. I really don't do it here. It was like, wow, I am okay. There's nothing wrong with me. It's this place, maybe.
Wow, place.
And my open G, right? It's like my open G.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of these places, and people have taken me. And so I've gone back, and I've been watching how my body kind of changes with environment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you seem very vital to me at the moment. Yeah. definitely.
So that splenic shine.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, that's,
I'm not
that's,
going to take credit for it. Just look at the spleen and the definition.
well, yeah, do we have a choice about it?
Yeah.
You talked about the fear thing and the people saying, I told you so, right? And so are you saying that they kind of gave you more fear about what COVID might be for you before you had the experience?
It's an interesting question. But I think it's just one part of a dynamic where, I mean, everywhere you look, it's being programmed into us, the fear, right? And so I guess I can see a little bit of awareness there, or with awareness of how, it's like, are you in the program, or are you protected by your strategy and authority?
Okay, I want to take off from there because something you said reminded me of my mother. My mother is the source of lots of fears. I've always said she's a fear-based person, and you know that because my mom informed me about this some months ago, that Mexico immigration stuff in recent months has changed, and the 180-day tourist visas that I was living here on were maybe being treated differently at some ports of entry in Mexico. So I was starting to go like, shit, what? Maybe my ability to stay here, it might be going away, And I was like, I was afraid to go to a border. Maybe not. If I come back in, I'm not going to get what I need anyway. So my mom, by notifying me about this thing out there, she was the source. I'm not saying it's wrong for her to give me this information, but I didn't ask for it. She told me this information, right? But in any case, what I want to share is that at a certain point, I made a splenic decision in, I think it was like the first couple of weeks of March. I was scheduled to go to a border. That would have been the end of my 6-month tourist visa. And I should have gone to the border and gotten a new 6-month tourist visa to come back in. And something in me said, don't fucking do it. You don't have this, that, and so I was like, fuck, really? I'm just going to go illegal? Okay, whatever. The world's coming apart, whatever.
Anarchy.
When I did it, when I said, just fuck it, I'm not going to do it, I felt good. I really did. I was like, and I really felt more attached to this place. Like, okay, I'm going in with you, black market, here we go. And within a month, within a 6 months total, or within 6 weeks total, within a month, I was in an application process to become fully legal resident of Mexico. And going illegal was a necessary step in getting my legal status because you had to have an expired tourist card. So if I had gone to the border and gotten a 6-month tourist card, I wouldn't have been eligible for this special program where I pay some money to the federal government and say, hey, thank you, I love you, Mexico, take my pesos, give me residency. And now I have it. I have full legal residency. And yet my mom's fear route or any of the traditional routes wouldn't have gotten me there. I literally had to hear word of mouth from 2 women who'd been through it, that they went through this special program. And I was like, that's impossible. You went through some kind of thing that, you bought some fake card or something, you got, but I talked to the lawyer, I read, So I guess I want to tie this into splenic authority. I couldn't have planned with my mind how well that was going to go for me. Just like with you and COVID, you couldn't have planned that COVID was just going to be this, easy enough deal for you and you're going to have this natural immunity for surviving it. You just knew that you weren't going to get vaxxed for whatever reason. Your body said no. And then look, you're totally fine.
Natural immunity.
Yeah. Now I don't have that yet. I mean, I kind of want to go snuggle with some COVID people, like I know. But maybe I've already had it for all I know. For all I know, I've already been through it, what my body was going to do. So
what a wonderful example of, you don't get there unless you have that moment where you stand up to the fear, right? And I guess there is a little bit of faith in our own authority, in our own self, right? Faith in our own, hey, I am who I am. It's kind of proof in the pudding, or are we going to go back to the safe choices that our mind has conceptualized as being this or that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't get there without taking the risk.
Yeah.
Finding out and saying, hey, I'm going to stand alone.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to be all right.
Yeah, it was a risk for both. It's a risk to choose to not vaccinate, whatever. It's a risk to vaccinate, whatever. But yeah, there's a risk to go illegal in a foreign country.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But it was no effort for me afterwards. Literally, the cash happened to be in the drawer. I got a ride to the office. Like everything was so easy. And that's like, I could have never gone in the front door to Mexican residency. But because so that to me is an authority example. I'm happy hearing your authority example. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had plenty of chances to get vaccinated, and people were giving me plenty of invitations, and
really, you got invited, and so you got actually invited to vaccinate, and you got a no from your body.
Absolutely. And I it's like, well, I had plenty of opportunity, and I just didn't see the practicality in it, let alone my authority saying, go do this or don't, I kind of know a background in virology, working in the medical field for 20 years.
Right.
And so, and I even went to a school. I thought I might be a doctor for a couple of years. So I learned a lot about anatomy, physiology. And so there wasn't this, I mean, from the very beginning, I'm like, y'all got it wrong. You're like, no. I do see why they did what they did. Anyways, I was actually exposed to people who contracted it, and at one point CDC informed me that I was around them because they mentioned.
You got a message from CDC?
No, I got a call. I got several calls.
You got called by the system.
And I was like, why did you give them my name? But because of that, I had to stay home for a couple of weeks and get 3 tests saying I was clean before I could return to work, because it was in the medical field. And
you're saying that because somebody else gave your name to somebody, you were put on house arrest?
Pretty much.
In the United States of America.
I mean, nobody's enforcing it. I was self-enforced, right?
Okay.
Pretty much, instructed to, who's going to stop me from going to work, right? But anyways, it was like 3 times it happened. I was around somebody with COVID for a week, and they didn't know they had it. And I didn't get it. When they first opened up Texas beaches because they wanted the money, and then there was a huge outbreak, I was invited. I kind of went. I was there. I didn't get it. The people I was there with got it. I didn't get it. And so here I was. My son got it, and he, I was taking care of him we were living in the same space, and I didn't get it. And so it's like, well, why do I need it if I've been around? It's so contagious, and yet I'm, I need a test to prove I got it. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? This isn't, whatever. Not for me. And I guess it's just, part of it is the logic behind it. But the other part is the trust and the faith that, there's no choice.
That your body will get what it needs. It will go through the experience it needs. I didn't have insurance when my femur was in 5 pieces on the road one day. But lo and behold, within a few hours, I had the surgery and the money I needed for the surgery.
Incredible. And really, we do have everything we need, right? I think it's like the abundance that people want so bad is on the other side of fear.
Ah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to make a banner with that. Okay. Okay. The abundance is on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
Well, and hey, you know what? Check this out. You know what? I'm just going to be a nerd for a sec here. Okay, look at the body graph. Hey, abundance is on the other end of your 39. And on the other side of that 55, abundance, is your spleen. So there's your fear. Look at that. Look at your poetic body graph little aphorism there.
Well, the 32 and the 28, right?
Well,
The failure and fear of death are
is
the ones.
32 fear of death? Fear of the death of the species? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I have those. I think those are my only two blank or white.
Those are the only two that you don't have in the spleen. So yeah, look at our splenic activation. So you have 4 in your, I have 4 in my personality. You have 1 in your, 2 in your personality, and yet you have 5 in your unconscious. I only have 4 in my unconscious. Yeah. So the only ones I don't have are 28 and 18. And you have 2 18s, so neither of us have 28. But your 18s meet my 58s. You're always telling me how joyous I am, and it's unconscious to me.
Well, there's something there that transfers. You know, a lot of people have been talking about aura over the internet, and I don't want to.
Yes.
I mean, I don't mind, but I just feel like every time I talk to you, I think the sound of your voice. I mean, something, whatever it is. I just feel joyous. I feel the joy. I feel the fuel. It fuels me that I don't get with other people. And I've also recognized it in another 58. A projector with a 58. And so I guess I have a little bias.
Well, okay.
I mean, it gives me fuel.
Well, right. And then, like, I mean, you look at how ridiculous I am. I mean, my communication, right? That 58 that is fueling you is called carried away. Right? Okay, I could even, it's about like getting lost in the joyous vitality such that my identity goes away. And I guess I'm sort of watching it happen in these broadcasts. Like, what is she doing? But for you, it feels good, and it fuels your talent. Right? It fuels your channel of talent. So,
which is my only obligation.
Say again?
I think I was trying to say this earlier, how it's like, I saw it 180 degrees differently, like all this openness, but each life force is like an obligation. And so, if you allow the form, you surrender, it'll take care of us, right? Like it'll, take care of your body in that sense.
Yeah.
And so taking care of our life force, well, I have very little to take care of. I just need to share. I just need to share what I got. I'm loving this,
And if you wait for the invitation to share, then it's always going to be wanted.
Or correct, right?
At least correct. Is there a difference? Okay, I'm not sure. Okay. Let's see here.
I would say so, because it could be correct and not wanted, but that things change from here to there in the moment. It could be wanted and then not wanted,
Well, right. The projector invitation, and maybe you're more aware sometimes when the invitation is over than the invitee or the inviter.
Right. Oh, right. And as a 5th line, I really have to ascertain what this person wants from me, not what they're telling me, because they can't help it. They can't help themselves. They're giving me this positive initial projection.
Right.
And so, something I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a quote. I'm quoting. I think it's a wrong quote. Familiarity breeds contempt. And so one of the things I've recognized in experimenting with Penta and traveling is that gosh, I lost my train of thought here.
Okay.
The projection field. I do receive preferential treatment. It's been recognized and brought to my attention. I see it myself. So one of the things is, the 180 thing again, is that, it was kind of like a source of whatever strife or whatever because of misunderstanding. or ignorant. But now I see it as an advantage. And so,
okay, the projection, the fifth line projection, now that you're aware of it, you can see it as an advantage. Do you want to say more about that?
because, well, for one, people, I get this initial, favorable reception from people, whether I like it or not. I don't have to say anything or do anything.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'd like to, I guess, just reflect on is that if I keep people at a distance, if I'm upstairs I'm upstairs now, second story, looking out the window, people see me and they're like, what's going on out there? It's different than the two where it's like they can see you're naked and there's a parade outside. The parade looks upstairs and they can't see what's up here. And if I let somebody upstairs with me, it doesn't work. And I have to come down off the stairs, go do the thing, and then come back up. So, it's like, oh, I'm here, I'm with friends or whatever we're doing. And then I got to go. I can't sit and hang out and get familiar because then it changes.
Okay. So this is along the lines of, I hear the fifth line, stranger of consequence kind of thing. Come in, do your thing, and then leave. Take yourself out of that sacral energy that might be otherwise conditioning you or whatever. So
and personally, it's like I have like less than a handful of people that I'll spend time with in aura or talk to. And those are the kind of the people that know a version of me that maybe strangers won't from forward, right? Because I've recognized this advantage. If I don't, it's like even a fool can appear wise if he keeps his mouth shut, right? And so if I don't let the cat out of the bag and say I'm human, it's like, oh, hey, people see me with this whatever. It's just
the projection gets maintained if you don't destroy it.
I've been destroying it my whole life, thinking, oh, I just want somebody to understand me. It's never going to happen.
Oh, listen to that. We can give up this lifetime thing that we thought we had to have. We thought we had to have people understand us.
No, and now I understand myself. I'm good. I mean, in the moment.
Yeah, and that's all we got, babe.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
It's enough too.
Amen. I want to leave it on that. This moment is enough. This moment is enough. Okay. Well, speaking of which, I don't like doing this, but I'm gonna close the cafe because I have a dance lesson to go to. Of all the things, I have 2 things to do in the same morning.
Time to dance and play.
Yeah, well, and I have a great play dance person to do this with. So, I don't go out that much, but it's in the morning. It's perfect timing. And hey, we've had enough, perhaps. Have you had enough?
I've had enough. I have one little question for you. If you
yes, please. And let me say that I'm here to answer a few more questions, maybe before we close out. That's cool.
Okay, well, just one. So when you're dancing, who leads?
That's a great question. And this is something that we're totally exploring. I'm so glad you asked. I'll give you the details. He is a 6'2", so that's all groovy. He's an MG. That's groovy. He's a 14-2-1-8, unconscious, right up the middle.
Very individual.
All red. Okay. So I don't actually remember, and he doesn't say he remembers for sure, if I originally asked him to dance or vice versa, but it was at a common thing. And I remember seeing him, and I don't think I would have said yes if he asked me. I think I splenically asked him, and he's emotional. He's got the 1949. But anyway, the first song, and it was just one, was Material Girl.
Cyndi Lauper.
No, well, it was the Madonna version.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so
Madonna.
So what happened next was we communicated more. It turns out he teaches dance. He used to do Arthur Murray, and then he made his whole own program called Flow Fluently. And it's all about like not having the structure of the traditional dancing stuff. And it's all about like, basically, it's all about 2 people being second line bodies together is what he's teaching. So I'm like a natural at his kind of dance teaching. But we have taken turns leading, is what I want to get to. But it's playing with my mind because I'm like, actually, I want to be led. Manifestor wants to be led, but if you're going to lead me, you got to like lead me. Like if you're
Mm.
wishy-washy, you're not going to do it. So and he's like, well, I want to teach you to lead. And I'm like, but this is one place where I don't have to lead. I want somebody else to know the dance moves so that my body can just do this.
What a wonderful experience.
So I'm continuing to play with it, and I'm exploring that. It's a great question, because I'm like, but then I thought somebody else made me realize I could lead a male emotional manifestor dancing. I was like, ooh, that would be interesting. Or like if I learned to lead formal dances, like say I learned to lead salsa, I could lead men and women in a salsa dance.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to learn this or not. Or is this going to become a skill of mine? Or am I just going to stay that hippie, crazy, ecstatic dancer that just flows along? I don't know, but it's a
Wait and
great question.
see.
I'm glad you asked. Okay, we'll leave it with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
wait
good
and
with that?
see. Usually that's how it is for me. Just wait and see.
Yeah. Well, it's lovely hearing how that has turned out for you in the past year.
Thanks.
It's really good. So you're looking great. You're sounding great. Thanks for being with me here this morning.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll probably do another one. So, ciao for now.
Ciao for now.
Hasta luego, amigo.
Adios. It's fun.